The night arrived already broken, the kind of winter night that felt heavier than the snow itself, when silence pressed down harder than the cold. He stood beneath a flickering streetlight outside the cafe where warmth spilled through fogged windows, checking his phone for the 5th time, breath rising in pale clouds as minutes stretched into something cruel. His blind date never came. Instead, fate placed him face to face with a moment that would fracture his loneliness and quietly rebuild his heart, beginning with the sight of a woman holding a child and crying alone in the snow. Before the story continues, take a moment to pause right here. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people show up for one another, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because people like you believe they do. He had agreed to the blind date out of exhaustion more than hope. Friends insisted that moving on meant trying again, even if his chest still carried the hollow echo of a life that did not turn out the way he imagined. The cafe had been chosen for its cozy reputation, the kind of place where people pretended winter did not exist. He arrived early, rehearsed polite smiles, and waited. Minutes became half an hour. Messages went unanswered. Eventually, the truth settled in, not with anger, but with an old familiar ache. He told himself it was nothing personal, just another invisible rejection in a world that rarely explained itself. With numb fingers, he shoved his phone into his coat pocket and stepped back into the snow, letting the cold punish expectations he should have buried long ago. That was when he noticed her. She stood several steps away at the bus stop, cradling a small boy bundled in blue, her coat too thin for the weather, her shoulders trembling not just from the cold, but from something far heavier. Tears streaked down her cheeks, unchecked, freezing at the edges. She was not making a scene, not drawing attention. She looked like someone who had run out of places to fall apart. The child in her arms stared into the night with wide eyes, unaware of the weight his mother carried, trusting her completely. Something inside him shifted, subtle but unmistakable, like ice cracking beneath unseen pressure. He hesitated, every instinct warning him not to intrude, not to embarrass her or himself. He was a stranger, and strangers often walked past pain because it was easier. But he remembered the way the empty chair inside the cafe felt, the way disappointment had settled quietly in his chest. He recognized the look on her face. It was the look of someone abandoned by timing, by people, by promises that never kept themselves. He stepped closer, slow and careful, as if approaching a fragile thing that might shatter if startled. She noticed him only when he stood within arm's reach. Her eyes lifted, startled, defensive, tired beyond words. Snow gathered on their coats as the city continued its indifferent rhythm around them. He did not ask questions right away. He simply offered presence, the kind that required no explanation. He gestured toward the cafe, warmth, light, shelter from the biting wind. She hesitated, pride warring with exhaustion, but the child shivered, and that was enough. She nodded, almost imperceptibly, surrendering to the kindness she had not expected to find that night. Inside, the cafe hummed softly with life, the smell of coffee wrapped around them like a blanket. She took a seat near the window, keeping her son close, hands still trembling. He ordered without asking, choosing something warm, simple, safe. When he returned, she had stopped crying, but her eyes told the rest of the story. She was a single mother, recently evicted, her job gone after too many missed shifts caused by childcare emergencies. That night had been her last attempt to reach someone who promised help but never answered. The bus was late, her phone nearly dead, and fear had finally broken through the walls she had built to survive. He listened without interruption, without solutions, without judgment. He listened the way people rarely did anymore, fully and without trying to fix what was not theirs to fix. He watched her shoulders slowly relax as words poured out, each one lighter than the last. He noticed how the child leaned against her, completely secure in her arms despite everything. Something warm spread through him, unfamiliar yet comforting. This was not the evening he planned, but it was the first time in a long while that he felt useful, present, necessary. Time passed unnoticed. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering footprints, erasing evidence of the cold world beyond the glass. He learned that her strength came not from confidence but from necessity, from waking every day knowing someone depended on her survival. She learned that he had lost more than a relationship years ago, that grief had shaped him into someone cautious, distant, afraid of reaching for happiness only to watch it disappear again. They did not promise anything. They did not imagine futures. They simply shared the truth of where they stood in that moment. When the bus finally arrived, it felt almost intrusive, like reality knocking too soon. He walked her outside, helped her adjust her son's scarf, and waited as she boarded. Gratitude shone in her eyes, not the polite kind, but the deep, wordless kind that recognized salvation in small gestures. As the doors closed and the bus pulled away, he stood there watching taillights fade into the snow, aware that something had changed inside him. The night was no longer empty. It had given him something he did not know he needed. Days passed, then weeks. Life did not transform overnight, but something subtle lingered. He thought of her often, wondered if she was warm, safe, hopeful. He questioned whether kindness could be enough in a world that demanded more. Then one evening, as he left work, he saw her again outside the same cafe. This time she was not crying. She smiled when she recognized him, hesitant but genuine. She had found temporary work, a small apartment, stability that felt fragile but real. The child waved at him like greeting an old friend. They sat together again, not because either of them expected anything, but because sometimes connection asked for nothing more than continuity. Over time, shared moments became shared routines. Coffee turned into walks, walks into trust. He learned that love did not always arrive loudly or perfectly timed. Sometimes it arrived quietly, disguised as a missed date and a woman crying in the snow. He became part of their world slowly, respectfully, understanding that trust with a child came with responsibility heavier than any promise he had ever made. He showed up consistently, not with grand gestures, but with patience. She learned to lean on someone without fear of collapse. Together, they discovered that broken beginnings could still lead to something whole. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you that small moments can change everything, please take a second to like this video, share it, and let the algorithm carry hope a little further. Seasons changed. Snow melted. Life remained imperfect but kinder. One evening as they stood under the same streetlight where the story began, he realized that the night which once symbolized rejection had become the foundation of his greatest gift. Love had found him not when he was searching, but when he stopped expecting anything at all. Before this story ends, please leave a comment below and tell us what this story made you feel, or share a moment when kindness changed your life, because sometimes the date that never came was never meant to. Sometimes, the universe clears one path only to quietly open another, leading you exactly where your heart was always meant to arrive.